Last week, Ta-Nehisi Coates made headlines while promoting his new book, The Message, on CBS. During the interview, Coates was confronted by Tony DeCopel, who presented familiar propaganda about Palestine and Israel.
I come back to the question, and it's what I struggled with throughout this book. What is it that so particularly offends you about the existence of a Jewish state that is a Jewish safe place and not any of the other states out there?
There's nothing that offends me about a Jewish state. I am offended by the idea of states built on ethnocracy, no matter where they are.
Muslim included.
I would not want a state where any group of people laid down their citizenship rights based on ethnicity. The country of Israel is a state in which half the population exists on one tier of citizenship, and everybody else that's ruled by Israelis exists on another tier, including Palestinian Israeli citizens. The only people that exist on that first tier are Israeli Jews. Why do we support that? Why is that okay?
Why is that? Why is there no agency in this book for the Palestinians? They exist in your narrative merely as victims of the Israelis, as though they were not offered peace at any juncture, as though they don't have a stake in this as well. What is their role in the lack of a Palestinian?
I have a very, 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 very moral compass about this. And again, perhaps it's because of my ancestry. Either apartheid is right or it's wrong. It's really, really simple. Either what I saw was right or it's wrong.
In the past, Coates had not always been supportive of the Palestinian cause. In fact, his earlier works were criticized for ignoring the Palestinian struggle. For example, in 2008, he wrote an article likening Black liberation leaders Huey Newton and Malcolm X to Zionists, while making no reference to Palestinians or to the fact that Newton's own Black Panther Party rejected Zionism. His celebrated 2014 article, The Case for Reparations, advocated for reparations to Black Americans and also praised German reparations to Israel, overlooking the harms those funds contributed to Israel's military capacity and further oppression of Palestinians. However, Coates' views have evolved significantly. In November of 2023, he publicly acknowledged his earlier mistakes and expressed shame for some of his earlier writings. He spoke to Democracy Now! About his visit to Palestine.
I was walking to try to get to the vendor, and I was stopped at a checkpoint. Checkpoints all through the city. Checkpoints obviously all through the West Bank. Your mobility is completely inhibited, and the mobility of the Palestinians is totally inhibited. And I was walking to the checkpoint, and an Israeli guard stepped out, probably about the age of my son. And he said to me, "What's your religion, bro?" And I said, "Well, I don't, I'm not really religious." And he said, "Come on, stop messing around. What is your religion?" I said, I'm not playing. I'm not really religious." And it became clear to me that unless I professed my religion, and the right religion, I wasn't going to be allowed to walk forward. So he said, "Well, okay, so what was your parents' religion?" I said, "Well, they weren't that religious either." He says, what were your grandparents' religion?" And I said, "My grandmother was a Christian." And then he allowed me to pass. And it became very, very clear to me what was going on there. And I have to say, it was quite familiar. Again, I was in a territory where your mobility is inhibited, where your voting rights are inhibited, where your right to the water is inhibited, where your right to housing is inhibited, and it's all inhibited based on ethnicity. And that sounded extremely, extremely familiar to me. And so the most shocking thing about my time over there was how uncomplicated it actually is.
And just a few days ago with Jon Stewart.
We would like to think that you go through, a horrific experience, be it the Middle Passage, Jim Crow here, be it the Holocaust or the centuries before that of pogroms, oppression, etc. And somehow you will be morally improved by coming out of that. Mm-hmm. You might be, but it's just as likely that you will conclude that, in fact, the world is a cold, hard place, and it's a zero-sum game. You know what I mean? And what matters is who has the guns and who doesn't.
Coates now openly speaks about the need for a free Palestine and the atrocities committed against the Palestinian people, including in his new book, The Message. So if you're wondering which public figures support Palestine,